I remember where I was when I got the news. I was sitting in my chair checking social media when a friend on Discord DM'd our group with a letter talking about the passing of Akira Toriyama. Honestly, I was trying to search for the news on Google and it wasn't coming up, so I was like, where's the source? And he said it was literally from their official Dragon Ball official account on Twitter. I mean X. And that's when I knew. Like, I remember when I first saw it, like, other than Google, I went to one of my other friends and he's a crazy Dragon Ball fan. He literally has like all of the figure arts figures that you see for the Dragon Ball characters. They're still coming out too, but he has like a ton of them. And when he said it was true, that was also like kind of the final nail in the coffin. Yeah, when we got the news, you kind of know as an anime fan that it's the end of an era. And seeing everyone's responses from Kishimoto to Oda to even Goku's voice actress Masako Nozawa, it's pretty heartbreaking to see just how big of an influence Akira Toriyama had. And I can't say the same, but I'm pretty sure to them, it's losing someone they held dear, a close friend, So, in remembrance of Akira Toriyama's passing, we wanted to do something special, not only as a tribute to the legend himself, but also the other grieving fans of Dragon Ball, and how better a way than remembering his life. So, I hope you can join me as we go down memory lane, and as we remember the man who helped define the childhood of so many generations. Obviously, this is obligatory, but welcome to the Amagi. Before we begin, only 25% of viewers are subscribed, so if you're a fan, please like and double check if you're subscribed. And, with that out of the way, let's get into the video. Akira Toriyama was an author and character designer for many years throughout his career. He authored the famed manga Dr. Slump, which sold over 35 million copies in Japan, and was the author of one of the most influential manga and anime series of all time, Dragon Ball. Toriyama's work on Dragon Ball was credited as one of the manga that brought the culture to the West, which can only be seen as ironic given that his original story was inspired by a novel known as Journey to the West. Worldwide, Dragon Ball sold over 260 million copies and inspired kids the world over. It inspired me. I saw that on Adult Swim, and it was done. I was an anime fan. And while the manga wasn't as popular in the West, anime began to pick up steam, which really took off around the era of Dragon Ball Z. Dragon Ball Z was credited as one of the anime that started the phenomenon and the invasion of Japanese culture in America. Kids started to think anime might be cool. It wasn't there yet, given another 10 years, but Dragon Ball was one of the series that had a cultural impact on the way Western fans saw anime. It led to interest in other series as well, such as One Piece, Naruto, and Bleach, also known as the Big Three. Akira Toriyama's contributions to Japanese culture in the West is on par to Hayao Saban, who brought us Power Rangers and The Masked Rider, both of which were based on Tokusentai heroes in Japan. But beside his work as an author, he was also a character designer for a myriad of different series, including Dragon Quest and Chrono Trigger. Because of his contributions, he would go on to receive the title of Chevalier in the French Order of Arts and Letters. That is the English translation because I can't pronounce that in French. I apologize. Akira Toriyama was born in the city of Kiyosu in the Aichi Prefecture, Japan. From an early childhood, he knew that drawing was what he was good at, as he always enjoyed doing it. When asked of his inspirations, he stated that his love of drawing only grew deeper when he watched 101 Dalmatians for the first time. He cited his love of manga creation truly beginning with his introduction to the Astro Boy series. Toriyama always knew that he would go into design, finding that it was his special talent. After graduating a design-focused high school, he forewent college to enter the workforce, where he became a designer for a small advertising firm in Nagoya. Despite being a natural, he did get into quite a bit of trouble. Toriyama stated himself not to be a morning person, which I relate because I'm literally recording this in the dead of night, which caused him to often be late for work. And his tendency to wear casual clothes caused him to clash with his employers often. He stayed for 2.5 years until he grew tired of the daily grind and decided to do something else. In 1977, now without a job and running low on cash, Toriyama would try his hand at a manga contest run by Kodansha, but missed the deadline and instead entered a contest run by Weekly Shonen Jump. This one he also failed to qualify for, but for different reasons. The manga he created was a parody of Star Wars called Mysterious Rainjack, but Kazuhiko Torishima was impressed by his work, seeing his raw potential as something that could make a true mangaka, or a manga artist. artist, for those of you that don't know the word. He encouraged Toriyama to continue pursuing a career in manga, which led to Toriyama's first published work, Wonder Island, which was published in the 52nd issue of Weekly Shonen Jump in the year 1978. Despite his work being published, the manga didn't prove to be super popular, and so Toriyama tried his hand with 2 more ideas, both of which were denied. However, before giving up, he found hope in the minor success of his manga Tomato, Girl Detective, which published in 1979. His stubborn nature drove him to continue until he finally developed another manga featuring a girl lead and titled the manga Dr. Slump. Dr. Slump began serialization in 1980 and continued on for 4 years, garnering much success. In 1981, Dr. Slump earned Toriyama the Shogakukan Manga Award for Best Shonen or Shoujo Manga Series of the Year. The series was published in 18 tankobon volumes and grew popular enough with fans to get his series animated. The anime of Dr. Slump would be shown on Fuji TV, where it held a prime-time slot, a slot that Toriyama's work would hold onto for 18 years straight through the tenure of both Dr. Slump and Dragon Ball. During 1982, Akira Toriyama would wed another manga artist named Nachi Mikami, referred to as Yoshimi in a Dr. Slump volume, and the two would have 2 children, a boy named Sasuke, born in 1987, and a daughter named Kika, who was born in 1990. In 1993, after the success of Dr. Slump, Toriyama decided to found his own studio, which became known as Bird Studio, coming from the first half of his surname Tori, which translates to bird. After this, Toriyama began working on his own kung fu-based manga, after receiving advice from his editor, Torishima. Having drawn inspiration from Jackie Chan movies he had always loved, he created 2 manga that became the prototypes for the Dragon Ball series, known as Dragon Boy and the Adventures of Tongpu. The prior was a direct prototype to Dragon Ball, with the latter being a more science fiction-based series that saw the protagonist as a cyborg aboard a starship to explore the universe. Neither series worked out well. Toriyama, however, would later return to working on Dragon Boy, which had been based on the Chinese novel Journey to the West, and from that inspiration, he created Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball began serialization in 1984 at around the time of Dr. Slump's ending. Dragon Ball ran for 11 years, from 84 to 95, and sold nearly 159.5 million tankobon copies in Japan alone, becoming the best-selling manga of all time. About midway through Dragon Ball, however, Torishima departed Bird Studios, and would be replaced by Yu Kondo, who remained his editor until the Perfect Cell saga, in which he too would be replaced by Fuyuto Takeda. In 1986, Toriyama was pulled into the Dragon Quest RPG for character design. He said that he didn't even know what an RPG was at the time, and that it made his life harder, but that he loved the finished project and continued to work on every Dragon Quest game until his death. He worked on many other projects at this time, including other video games and a short one-shot manga. But his true golden goose was Dragon Ball, which spawned both Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, 2 of the most influential anime of all time. He continued writing the Dragon Ball manga for 519 chapters until its end in 1995, to which Toriyama had hoped to end it to take new steps in life. Toei wasn't ready to let go of Dragon Ball, however, and in 1996, a 3rd anime for Dragon Ball was released, Dragon Ball GT. Neither based on Toriyama's work nor well received by fans, Toriyama did state himself to have been responsible for some character designs, as he had been for the many Dragon Ball Z movies Toei had done in the past, and said that GT was an excellent anime that faithfully represented his characters. He commented that Katsuyoshi Nakatsuru, who had been responsible for much of the character design, including the most popular element from GT, Super Saiyan 4, had done well following his style, and had made wonderful designs. And honestly, breaking from script a little bit, while Dragon Ball GT's story was okay, Super Saiyan 4 was sick. I just didn't like the way you got there. It was a little weird, but the design was sick. I like Super Saiyan 4 better than the current, Super Saiyan Blue, Super Saiyan God. I think it was just more unique, Anyway, in 2002, Toriyama would visit the United States, where he would partake in a small interview commemorating the launch of Weekly Shonen Jump's American counterpart, of which his works, Dragon Ball and Sandland, were among the opening manga released by it. After this, Toriyama worked on many other projects, including one-shots and video games. He would even lend his design-making skills to QC Motors, a car manufacturing company, who commissioned him to design their first electric vehicle, the Q-Vault. But not long after this came a dark age for Dragon Ball fans everywhere. The year was 2009. Someone thought it would be a good idea to make a live-action adaptation of the Dragon Ball series. It wasn't, and after reviewing the film, he attempted to offer creative criticism, finding the movie bland and uninteresting. However, his advice was ignored, and in the end, the result was a movie I cannot call Dragon Ball. But the Dark Ages wouldn't last long. In 2012, Battle of Gods entered development. It marked the first time since 1996 that a Dragon Ball animation would be produced, and this time, it was written by none other than Toriyama himself, who would introduce many new characters including Beerus and Whis, as well as a brand new transformation known as Super Saiyan God. The movie was well received and excited fans of his work the world over, and would mark the beginning of a new era of Dragon Ball manga and anime, starting a series known as Dragon Ball Super. It was also in 2012 that another upcoming mangaka would appear and request to be an artist for the Dragon Ball Super manga. In 2013, Toriyama would be requisitioned to write another short series manga known as Jaco the Galactic Patrolman. This manga would, at its final chapter, be revealed to be a prequel to the original Dragon Ball series, and would mark Jaco's entry into the Dragon Ball world as a whole. His next appearance would be in 2015 when Resurrection F was released. It was a direct sequel to the 2012 movie and marked the return of the classic villain Frieza, who displayed a new transformation to rival even Super Saiyan God, and its further developed variant, Super Saiyan Blue. Toriyama would provide the script for the movie and would later go on to provide a basic outline of the story for both the anime and manga that would come up later that year to follow. It was around this time that Toriyama began to mentor the one he would call his successor, an author of a doujinshi manga that had been known as Dragon Ball AF. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't even realize it was built out to be like a doujinshi manga. Growing up, I thought Dragon Ball AF was just like a collective of fan art that people had created in the style of Dragon Ball. Like, I remember my cousin and I would be like, holy crap, Super Saiyan 5? Oh my god! Not knowing that, it wasn't real because this was like the early 2000s and both of us were very, very young and didn't really realize that the internet was like that. Anyway, Toyotaro had been a lifelong Dragon Ball fan who had been one of the many who grew parched during the Dragon Ball drought that lasted 16 years. Creating his own manga, he had it published, and upon hearing that a position had opened for an official Dragon Ball artist, he was quick to submit his work. Toriyama liked his designs and brought him on board, to which the two began to work closely. Toriyama would help quite a bit, particularly in story and in designing some character appearances, but most of the manga's art was drawn by Toyotaro, who would even go on to design the various gods of destruction across the 12 universes within the Dragon Ball world. It seemed we had hit a new golden age of Dragon Ball, with new manga, anime, and even movies being dropped often. The Dragon Ball Super anime would last until 2018, where its Tournament of Power arc would reach its final conclusion, with audiences the world over holding watch parties just to see the epic moment when Goku and Jiren's high-octane battle reached its definitive conclusion. And fans were not disappointed. But despite the manga continuing to go strong well into the Moro arc, the anime was left finished for quite some time, and we wouldn't see any more Dragon Ball animation until December 2018 and June 2022, with the release of Dragon Ball Super Broly and Dragon Ball Super Superhero respectively. It seemed to fans that the Dragon Ball Super anime might never return, with the manga being the primary source of Dragon Ball entertainment from that point forward. But that all changed in October of 2023. Fans the world over roared in excitement when Dragon Ball Daima was announced. Despite fears that the series might follow the tropes of Dragon Ball GT, with the series reverting the cast to children and having them travel the universe in a starship, fans could do nothing but wait in excitement, hoping to finally have their time in front of the TV to watch Dragon Ball once again. Set to be released in fall of 2024. After so many years, Dragon Ball fans were enjoying a constant rain shower of content. From video games to web series to manga to anime to movies, we had it all. Then it all changed. On March 8th, officials from Bird Studios released a statement that informed the various communities connected to his work that Akira Toriyama had passed away due to an acute subdural hematoma. For those who don't know what that is, it's a form of brain bleeding that's caused by a torn blood vessel. The type he had was stated to often happen quickly, within minutes to hours of the vessel tearing. It's a common injury after a traumatic head injury, though other reasons for the development of a subdural hematoma exist. And just like that, the legend, a man who had changed culture across the world, was gone. Leaving behind a wife and 2 children, the world grew grayer with this news. For days, people the world over did, and still are, lamenting his passing, and praying for his family and all those close to him. Fans are coping in their own way by continuing to talk about and enjoy the series that defined the childhoods of generations of people. The outpouring of love and support from the communities across the world is enough to bring a tear to your eye. Even though most of us never knew Akira Toriyama sensei, a large hole in our hearts has formed with his passing. He became a member of our family by entertaining us and our children with his wonderful stories, and now the world feels all the dimmer without his glimmering personality and his bright smile to liven it up. But the question that remains for many of his fans is, what does this mean for Dragon Ball? It might be too early to say, and some points in time I feel wrong even asking that. The loss here was not a manga or anime, but a wonderful man who shared his joy with the world and changed lives for the better. But all the same, with all respect in mind for Toriyama sensei and his family, we continue to ask, what's next? What'll happen now? Well, the definitive answer I can't tell you, but I can make some educated guesses. Toriyama for a long time had been slowly distancing himself from Dragon Ball. He was beginning to reach the golden years of his life and had wanted to do other things. His return to Dragon Ball in 2012 wasn't a complete return. His inclusion of a protege, Toyotaro, showed us that he wanted Dragon Ball to continue, even if he knew he couldn't write it forever. Dragon Ball is a wonderful series enjoyed the world over, and Toriyama sensei knew that. He knew how much his work changed lives around the world, and so it was his desire that it continue. If I were to say what I believe will happen, I would say this: the Dragon Ball series will continue, including the manga, under Toyotaro's complete direction. The manga will likely take a hiatus for a while, as the creators wish to both grieve for their friend as well as show respect to him and his family, which is right. After this, they will likely dedicate Dragon Ball Daima to Toriyama sensei, and after that, the series will continue. Dragon Ball won't end, no, but it certainly will never be the same. That's not to say that I won't still be enjoying it. After all, Toyotaro has just had a heavy mantle thrust onto him, and he's going to need all the support he can get. His work will never be Toriyama's Dragon Ball, but it doesn't have to be. It needs to be Toyotaro's Dragon Ball, and Toriyama sensei would have wanted it to be that way as well. To pay homage and respect to the series that came before, but to tell new stories, because in the end, when a series is loved by so many people, it takes on a life of its own. That being said, when Toyotaro retires from being a mangaka, and his apprentice also retires, when we're all old and living in old folks' homes, Dragon Ball will still be airing. Dragon Ball will live for as long as humans remember it, and in that way, so too will Toriyama sensei. I know that chances are that nobody in Toriyama's family will ever see this video, but if ever they did, I would want to offer them my condolences and thank them for sharing their wonderful husband, father, and brother with us. And for Toriyama sensei, wherever you are, thank you so much for all the stories you've given us. Till we meet again. This video is dedicated to Akira Toriyama and his family, and it's a reminder for those who are considering telling stories to the world. If that's what your dream is, go do it. Go tell stories. Go show the world your joy and imagination. To entertain yourself is good, but to entertain others is wonderful. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other. And to Mr. Toriyama, we hope that he may rest in peace. Thank you for your work, and thank you, the viewer, for watching. Follow your dreams and change the world for the better. Until we meet again, peace.